Great. Okay, welcome, friends. Let's talk today about taking full radical self responsibility. So, that is full self responsibility. So, for yourself, for your feelings, for how you show up, for your life, for what happens in your life, right? For what happens, quote unquote, to you in your life, and changing that around what happens for you in your life, right? So, there's a lot out there right now. There's a lot of people out there right now that play victim, that play the victim card. The woe is me, the world is happening to me, these things are happening to me. I have no control over this. Like this victim mentality, victim mindset, and it's being pushed. It's being pushed on younger people. It's being pushed on millennials, kids, everything that this next generation coming up, and there's less and less self responsibility, right? So, especially with what is going on in the world right now, especially with the things that are out there, because it is very easy to blame, right? It is much easier to blame and play the blame game than it is to take that responsibility and be the one that's responsible and say, oh, it is on me. It is on my mindset. Okay. So I can't control what's going on around in the world, but I can control myself, right? It is easier to take the road of blaming other people, blaming everything and everything else around you than it is to take responsibility, right? Than it is to take responsibility for yourself. So, what happens when we step into this role of full radical self responsibility? What happens? Your whole entire world is going to lift up, light up, opportunities start to flow, right? You're in a completely higher frequency, a completely higher vibe. Everything changes because it's you have control of your life and how you show up, right? You don't have control over what is around you. You don't have control over the people around you. You don't have control over. You can control who you have in your life and who you don't have in your life, but you can't control how they react, what they do, what they say. You can't control things. However, you can control how you react, how you show up, and what you create. So, what you are creating in your life and the life that you are creating, you have complete control over that. You have complete control over that. And just sit here for a second and think about that. Think about playing the victim and how that feels when you blame everyone, when it's everyone else's fault, when you have no control. Think about that for a second. How does that feel? How's that sit in your body? Right? It doesn't feel good. It feels contracting. It feels bad. It feels scary, lack of freedom. Trying to think of another word, but you think of what that is, how that feels in your body. And then come from a place of full responsibility, full radical responsibility. I am in control of my life. I'm in control of my life, of who I allow in my life, of what I'm creating, and of how I'm showing up. I am in control. I control all of that, all of those things. So, how does that sit? How does that feel? Right? I know for me, right away, I can feel that in my solar plexus, right? My core, my confidence. It's excitement, it's freedom, it's openness, it's expansion. Totally different vibe. You can feel it in your energy. You can feel it in your frequency. You can feel it in your aura. You can feel it in the space around you. It opens everything up. This shift opens everything up, right? So shifting from the victim. So whether you're playing victim or not, right? We all do it in a little bit. We all do it in little forms. We all do it in little ways. We all do it in little bit, right? That we play the victim in certain situations here and there. So shifting from that, I don't have control, into I have control. I have control over what I'm creating. I have control over my life. I am taking full responsibility. I'm taking responsibility for how I show up. I'm taking responsibility for what I'm creating, right? I'm taking responsibility for my life and what's happening, right? And my reaction to what's happening, right? So we again, we don't have control over what's happening in the world right now. We don't have control over other people and how they show up, but we do have control over how we react to it. We do have control over our boundaries and who we let in, what we let in, what information we let in, what energy we let in, how much you want to be on Instagram, how much you want to watch or even pay attention to the news or what's going on. You have control over what goes on in your mind. You have control over what goes on in your mind. And most of the time, we subconsciously think all these things, all these thoughts, all these negative thoughts, all these self-limiting thoughts, all these blame thoughts, all these victim mentality thoughts without even thinking. We don't know. They're just there, right? So we do have control over it. And when we bring awareness to that, when we see that, when we notice that, and when we know it's going on, right? Awareness is the first key. We know that's going on. We know that's happening within us. When we bring that in and then take the responsibility, take that full radical responsibility for what happens and for your thoughts, right? It's really just taking responsibility of your thoughts and what you're thinking, because from that, from your thoughts, you then create your actions, you then create your outer world. You're creating who is around you. You are creating what you allow in. You're creating your frequency, and then in turn, attracting these things and bringing these opportunities that you want in your life, creating this life that you want to be creating, right? So taking that responsibility for yourself. And this is huge. And this is something that you can come back to every day, reminding yourself, have a practice awareness around it, have awareness around it. It can be something that you bring into every conversation or certain conversations. It can be something that you bring into a certain relationship, your marriage, your main relationship, your relationship to your kids, your family, right? It can be something that you're bringing into and practicing. This is a practice. You get to bring this into your life. You get to bring this practice into your day or into your business or into your relationships or wherever you need this the most, right? And it's usually that first thing that you think when I say this or when someone says this, it's usually the first place that comes to mind that you need it, right? That you need it the most. And with doing that, with bringing that practice to that one area, you'll then bring it everywhere else in your life, because how you are in one area, how you are in one thing is how you are in everything. So bringing this practice in, and first and foremost, right, we bring awareness. So you're already aware of it because you're listening to this, right? You just heard this, you're aware. The awareness is there. Just listening to this, just thinking this one thought right now has already opened up a whole new world, because you're going to be aware. So whether you're aware that you're aware, you know it's there, right? So it's already there. It's implanted in your mind. You heard it, you learned it. It's now something that you can implement, and it's something that's subconsciously there now, right? Okay, so coming back to that responsibility. So this is going to be your practice, and this can be your practice. Again, you don't have to put that pressure on yourself or that strive for gaining that perfection. This can be just another practice that you bring in, something that you're now implementing into a certain area of your life. Because really, when we think about it, when you think about the times that you're struggling, the times that you're upset, the things that you're working through and working on right now in your life, right? A lot of times it comes from, we think that it comes from other people, right? Is it someone else's fault? Is it someone else's fault? Or is it your lack of boundaries, right? So is it someone else's fault that they seemingly have obligations on you, or they have expectations on you? They seemingly have these expectations on you. Is that someone else's fault? Or is that your responsibility for how you're reacting to that, how you're showing up to that? Is it your responsibility for your lack of boundaries, right? Someone might have expectations of you to do something, but then it's your responsibility to have boundaries. No, that doesn't work for me, right? Maybe that's something someone expects of me, but that doesn't work for you. You're living your life. This is your responsibility. You're not doing things for other people, right? So those expectations, those obligations, even societal obligations, no, this doesn't work for me. This is my boundary. This is how I live my life. I'm taking responsibility of this, right? So is it the other people? No, it's not. It's my responsibility. It's my responsibility to have self-respect. It's my responsibility to have respect for myself, to create those boundaries, to say no, to say no. This is very hard. This is could be a whole nother topic, saying no versus saying yes, right? Again, your responsibility. Looking at triggers, is it someone else that's triggering you, or is it your lack of healing? Right? We get triggered by different things. We start to notice our triggers. We start to learn about them. And it's never the other person, right? It's us. That's something. And that's something you can turn around to a positive thing. You can learn from that. Wait, why am I being triggered by this person? Why am I being triggered by this thing? Is this something that I haven't healed within myself yet? Is it something that I have healed within myself, but it still hurts because that's my old self? That's how I used to show up. And then that's something that you're seeing, right? So other people, it's not other people triggering you. It's your, again, reaction to it and how you can turn it around, how you can learn from it, how you can grow from it. So seeing that. Same thing with comparison, right? And seeing success in other people. That is very hard for some people. That's very hard for us to see because we come from a lack mentality. So it's not them or, oh, they're so lucky, they're so successful, they did this. Well, it's easy for them to do or to say because they accomplished XYZ, or they have this amount of money, or they have this network, or whatever it is. Right? So is it that? Is it them? No, they're just living their life. And again, you can turn that around. You can see that and use that as an example of, wow, this is what I can create. This is what I can create. They're able to do it. I'm able to do it, right? You can see that as inspiration and not come from a place of lack, right? So seeing someone else's success does not mean you're less than them, does not mean there's only so much to go around, right? So just because they're successful, that means you have less chance of being successful, right? That's a lack mentality. It doesn't work like that. So you're taking responsibility for how you react to that. Wow, I see someone's success and that's inspiring to me. That means I can do that too. There's so much to go around that if they can do it, I can do it too. The higher they vibe, the higher that I'm able to vibe, right? So I rise, you rise. The more they rise, the more you're supporting them and lifting them up, then the higher you're becoming as well. Right. So, and let's see, there's some other things as well that we can kind of pull into this and use as an example, but I think we're seeing the responsibility aspect too. And a lot of it, right? It's hard right now. What's going on in the world is extremely hard to not be affected by, right? To not physically be affected by, and to not everything financially, spiritually, all those things. So taking all of this, so right, and looking at all of these things, all of these different examples, all of these little areas in your life that you can implement this, because really it's not the unknown, right? It's not the unknown. It's us coming back to ourselves and saying, okay, how am I showing up here? I am good enough for this. I am smart enough for this. I am enough. I am enough. This is how I want to be living my life. I have nothing to prove to anybody else. Right? It's always coming back to us. It's always coming back to that self responsibility. Right? Even though there is so much unknown right now, even though the world is completely crazy with everything that's going on, even though things seem totally upside down, this is your chance. This is your life to take that responsibility, to take full responsibility for yourself and for how you're showing up. This is your life. You get to create. Nobody else. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what anyone else is doing. It doesn't matter what's going on for anybody else. It doesn't matter what's working for anybody else and what's working or what's not working. It doesn't matter what society, what expectations, what obligations, what other people think. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. What matters is how you're showing up for yourself and what you are creating. And that comes back to taking that responsibility for yourself. All right, you guys, you got this. Go out there and practice this and let it be fun. Let it be fun. It's a practice. It's your next step, bringing that awareness into your life and going out and creating the life that you want to be creating.